Part 5.
In which we all become starlets.
Monty Python's Flying Circus ran for 4 seasons, a total of 45 episodes in all. John Cleese wrote material for the 4th season of Monty Python, but did not perform in it. A selection of the sketches had earlier been reshot for a film version called And Now for Something Completely Different, initially for American release in an attempt to break the American market. It was ironically a big hit in Britain. But now, with the bit between their teeth and a taste for film, work began on the Pythons' first full-length narrative feature, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Terry Jones.
We sort of sat down to talk about what it should be, and Mike had got this start of King Arthur and Patsy and coconuts. And we all suddenly thought, that's a funny image, and why don't we do a thing about King Arthur? And then we all went off and started writing on King Arthur.
Here's Terry Gilliam.
What was interesting about the start of the work, it was amazing how traditional we wanted to be. We wanted to make real movies, not Python, not the crap that we do. Real movies. If we had had the money, we would have had real horses. We would have had all that stuff. Once you got into that, it was going to be just all the movies we'd seen put in there. And what was wonderful was the limitations imposed on us by the budget. We couldn't do those things, so we had to get clever and inventive. And thank God, because the coconuts saved our ass. We could never have got through that movie with real horses. And the coconuts are much funnier. Everything is funny, and somehow it makes a wonderful leap because you accept it. With that opening shot, you accept a kind of lunatic logic that's there. I mean, Arthur with his incredible, absolute seriousness, never a blink, never all this stuff, and then this going on behind. It's one of those things. It was just, in retrospect, brilliant.
The financing was very good.
Eric Idle.
And the rock and roll element. I think Tony Stratton Smith was responsible for bringing in a lot of that. He was Charisma Records. And so it's Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Genesis. You know, so they all put in 20,000 each. And Alexander Hesketh, Lord Hesketh, put in 20,000. They, and they made the budget, I think, £200,000. So they provided, half of it was Film Finance Corporation, and the other 100,000 was independent investments. So 5 groups of 20,000 each, I think. That's how it worked. And they've made a ton out of it. Yeah. They keep thanking us.
According to Bryce Hammer & Co., chartered accountants, the production cost of Holy Grail as of the 17th of September 1975 was £229,575.
Hard to remember why Graham got the lead. I can remember in Life of Brian that I think John was quite keen to do Brian, but I'm not sure that anybody else particularly wanted to do Arthur, because it was a pretty straight part, not a lot of laughs, the cause of laughter in others, but I think Graham maybe volunteered, and I mean, because he looked great as Arthur, and he just had that sort of dignity. And Graham was capable of playing serious, and this sort of wonderful, rather saintly, long-suffering look that he sort of came, sort of rather easily to Graham's features. So I think it probably was a general agreement, and I think it seems quite a selfless thing to do because it cut you out of a lot of other sketches. Otherwise, yes, I think it was probably mainly who'd written what.
Graham was a mountaineer. He was a member of the Dangerous Sports Club, whatever that thing is called.
Terry Gilliam.
He was all of these things. We come to do the Bridge of Death to go across, and he couldn't do it. He froze. He just completely froze. So Jerry Harrison, the assistant director, had to put on his costume and double as Graham going across. Because he was a drunken sot as well.
Obviously.
he couldn't say his lines as Arthur. He'd get through a sentence and he would blank out. That's what was going on with Graham. And this great dignified character is actually Blotto. What's so funny? You're up in these very perilous conditions, up on a mountain, and all the truth suddenly comes out. Terry and I don't know how to direct, and Graham can't go across a bridge.
Michael had a hilarious outburst in that scene with the mud.
I remember that quite a sort of outburst there. I remember myself getting very angry once and being asked to be the mud eater for take 8. The mud eater was this character who had to sort of crawl across the mud. And in front of a shot in which I think John and Graham were coming through the plague village at the beginning. And I had to go out and eat this mud. And it was really a shock for those two. But I dutifully did my bit, crawl through this filthy, stinking sort of pig-shitty mud. And I think they said they wanted to do take 8. And John said, why? What the hell's going on, you know? To which someone said, well, it was, you were fine, but we can see Mike's back. That's when I just went, what? You can see my back? What have you been doing the rest of the time? All this stuff. And I went absolutely ape and threw myself in the air, landed in the mud and just wiggled my legs around, screamed and yelled for about sort of 5 seconds. Then there was absolute silence. And then John and Graham just led this spontaneous applause. John said he'd never seen anything like it, he'd never seen me get angry again. Then they had to do the scene where I actually eat the mud. And the blokes or props boys said, well, when you get to the mud, don't worry, because we're going to put some chocolate down there that looks just like mud. It's completely edible. So how will I know which is the chocolate and which is the mud? And there's no answer to that. There's really no answer. So I just had to eat whatever was there. Most of it was chocolate, but a little bit of it was mud.
But I thought it was very good. I thought it was very good. The only other thing I remember is doing one of the best takes that I'd ever done in my life. Just occasionally you fly. In a movie lasting 5 or 6 weeks, you may fly 3 or 4 times. Make 3 or 4 takes, but it just is really rather marvellous. And I remember doing one of them with Eric. It's when he gets the arrow in it. Do you remember? He's Concorde and he gets the arrow in it. And I did a take, and when Terry shouted, cut, I said, how about that? Because I was really exhilarated.
Yeah.
And I heard this comment, not enough smoke. Now this is, for me, a perfect example of the tail wagging the dog, right? Of getting your priorities wrong. So I remember getting quite sarcastic then. And any time that anybody said, cut, it was a good take, I said, well, was the smoke funny enough, you know?
A rather jolly day with much corpsing from John, Eric and myself when Brian McNulty and Rich Glaswegian reads in John's Taunter's lines for us to react to. How can you react without laughing to a broad Glaswegian saying, of course I'm French, why do you think I'm using this outrageous accent? Like everything else with Python, you know, things that have become kind of legendary were at the time very uncomfortable, and you felt somehow that the actual effort, the logistics of doing them had in the end compromised the material itself. Like, I remember very much where I'm doing the Knights of Ni. It was just so... there's so many problems actually shooting it. In fact, I had to stand on this ladder with a very, very heavy helmet or headdress on, a great long beard. And it's difficult to kind of stretch out and do the performance properly. And I just remember thinking at the end of the day that we'd wasted that. It was a very funny sketch, we just hadn't got it. But now, you know, the Knights of Ni are quite legendary and a lot of people's favourite thing. So there were times when we did think we were getting it wrong. Other times when it just felt right. I mean, I'm doing the Camelot song, that wonderful Castle Hall. There's a really good feeling to that. And also that John doing the knights on the battlements, the abuse. Yeah. That was just, we just knew that would work. It was just very funny. We all fell apart listening to it. But as a whole, my best memories are very, hard work, long days, quite uncomfortable days, without any real feeling this was actually going to work.